And then you can go, Bridget.
Okay. Is it on? Because it says off air on mine. I don't know.
Yeah, mine too.
Mine says live.
Okay,
Mine
there we
says,
go.
mine says live.
I liked in the beginning of chapter 11 how Parker Palmer stated the difference between ethical and unethical leaders is as sharp as the contrast between light and darkness, between heaven and hell. I think leaders are solely responsible for followers and have a great amount of power and should create the best organization, not just for themselves, but for their followers in terms of ethics. Leaders have an immense responsibility and privilege in their position, and there can be times when their ethics are challenged. I thought it was interesting in virtue ethics how not sorry how not everyone will have the same vision as to what makes an ideal leader, but it's pretty close for the most part. Let's see. I I think that the best way to have the best ethics is just to lead by example. And I actually have an example when virtue ethics was not exactly it was challenged, I guess you would say. And it was kind of similar to the HP example in the book, but it happened when an individual working at a corporation was kind of taking advantage of the system because they were a manager and kind of working overtime with their team and with a certain individual. And it ended up that the people were actually having an affair together. And it was just a very weird situation. And the boss was having an affair with one of the coworkers. And the boss actually ended up quitting so the girl could continue working at the corporation. I don't see why I would want to stay working there. But that was just like a silly example where ethics were challenged, and the leader was he was ideal to most of people because he was very considerate and kind, but he was kind of taking advantage of his power in the organization.
Yeah, true. Alrighty. And then, so my definition of ethics is kind of basic. It's doing the right thing. And a good example I have actually that happened within the last couple of months at my work is our assistant store manager actually got fired because we all get an employee discount at my work at Starbucks, right? And she kind of abused that by letting one of her friends use her employee discount to get an item at a lower price, and she actually got caught by our district manager, and so she was fired for that. And I think that was the right course of action, even though she really didn't have any prior offenses. But in that position, she was a store or assistant store manager training to be a store manager, and if she can't be trusted with something that small, like why would a corporation really want to trust her with being a manager and having more control over things? And so I kind of think that relates to how it shapes leadership. Is like you kind of want to be a role model for your employees and how you should act, and that establishes organizational culture, like what is okay and what's not okay. And then you also want to have like a good reputation just as a leader in general. And because why would someone want to listen to you or follow you if you weren't representing yourself the way you wanted your followers to? All right, and that's pretty much what I got.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you completely, Megan. I think that leadership is a responsibility, and people follow, like the followers of a leader, they really want to make sure that the person they're following is ethical, has strong beliefs, because they influence so many people. And an example that you gave, Monica, was real. Bridget was, people doing things in the workplace that just isn't right. So to me, ethics is doing what's right, even if it's not the popular choice, or even if nobody really knows that you're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? So it's something that is just you feel that's the right thing to do, and you know in your heart that it's the right thing to do. I was in my office at the office last week, and there was a guy that works. There's a Starbucks inside the campus, and he gave me coffee last week, so I knew who he was. And then as I was going into the building, you have to use your badge, and you're not supposed to ever allow anybody else to come in. And as I saw him standing outside, he said, "Oh, can I come in with you?" And I had to tell him no. I mean, I literally almost had to close the door on him and said, this is my responsibility. I'm not allowed to let you in, even though I know you, because that's the policy. And then part of me felt bad about it. And then I thought, no, I have to stick to what I believe is true. We go through ethics training. And like I said, it would have been easy for me to just say, come on in, come through the door. And that wouldn't have been the right thing to do. So for me, it's even when it's not popular and somebody thinks that you're not making a right decision, to me, ethics is it's a feeling too. It's not just a thing. And that's why I liked Aristotle's virtue ethics, because it's not just the actions, it's about how you are as a person, and it's what makes you who you are. So to me, that's what ethics means.
That's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
So similar to kind of you guys, I think ethics has a lot to do with doing the right thing, no matter who's watching, knowing between right and wrong. And I like the idea of Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, doing the right thing, despite no matter what the consequences are. But at the same time, it's an ideal, right? So it's kind of the challenge is what are the real world implications of that sort of thing, or you kind of deal with that. For example, with the whole thing happening right now with like Apple and the federal government and the whole security thing. What's their needs? What's the practical need versus what's the ethical decision to make in the larger issue at play? Uh, so it's nice to try and strive for the categorical imperative, but you also kind of have to recognize the limits, and in order to get work done, get business done, that sort of thing. And I also wanted to speak on like doing, like Megan was saying, when your coworker got fired for using her employee discount, even though it was her first time, that sort of thing. Um, I kind of also think that ethics, how you establish your ethics in your organization or where you work, you kind of have to defend it vigorously, and you can't leave exceptions because, or forgive minor transgressions even a little bit, just because it's kind of a slippery slope. And you have to, the way that ties into culture, you have to have buy-in. Remember, everybody has to buy in and believe that we're all on the same ship going the same direction. And when somebody sees somebody else getting away with it and then they get punished for it, then it creates an issue. Like I talk about like speeding tickets, for example. I always say like driving around, I would rather know for certain if I'm going 56 and a 55, 10 times out of 10, I'm going to get a ticket, rather than, oh, this part of town, there's not a lot of cops and I can get away with it, versus this part I can't. Because then you know what to expect at all times, and it takes the guesswork out of it.
That's true. Yep.
So that's it.
Alrighty. You can go, Monica.
Okay, sorry. So I'm with you guys as far as ethics is about doing the right thing or being a good person. When I was reading through this week's stuff, the first thing that came to mind was a client that I had before. So I'm a bookkeeper, and I worked for this client who ran like a construction company. He remodeled homes, and he would subcontract all of his work to different, I guess, other general contractors. They would do the work, they'd all do great work, and then he would almost refuse to pay them, or he would find issues with their work and try to kind of like put them down. Oh, you didn't do this well enough. I'm not paying you for that. It's only worth this. All kinds of things that he had agreed to a certain thing up front, and then when it came down to it, he tried to like haggle down their prices, and
It's
things
like
like
the
that. And
opposite of
he
nickel and diming.
and so being the bookkeeper, I had subcontractors calling me every day. Where's my money? What's going on? He told me this, and it was horrible. And needless to say, I wasn't there very long,
But when I first started working there, I actually really liked the gentleman.
Hello?
Oh, I think you hit mute.
I think you accidentally hit mute first.
Oh, I did. Oh no. Well, okay, so he was treating the subs really bad. And so in turn, I mean, it just made me not like trust him as a leader. So my whole opinion about him changed, and I just wasn't able to work there anymore. I wasn't able to follow him. I just didn't believe in anything he was doing or representing. And so it just kind of goes back to his ethics. Everything he did was unethical. So sorry that I muted a lot of that out of there, guys.
That's okay. Awesome. Well, I'll end the program just because we're out of time. But